Hi, this is Aaron Marshall with Ratio Christi here at UNC Wilmington. In previous videos, we looked at the nature of truth and we looked at self-refuting statements. But this brings up one of the most important questions that we deal with on campus, which is, why can't all religions be true? People tell us that we're intolerant because we would say, or I would say at least, that Jesus is the only way, that Christianity is the one true religion. Now, it's really important to understand, what do I mean when I say that? What I mean is simply that the nature of Christianity, the truth claims that Christianity proclaims are true. And they're true for all people at all times, at all places. So it is true that God exists, whether I believe it or not. It is true that Jesus really walked the earth, whether I believe it or not. It is true that Jesus died on the cross for our sins, whether I believe it or not. And it is true that Jesus rose from the dead 3 days later, whether I believe it or not, amongst other things that Christians claim. It's not my beliefs, it's not my preferences, although it is my beliefs. It's not just that. We're saying it's true for all people at all times and all places. So this brings us to the claim of, well, then why can't all religions be true? And the simple answer is, because they teach different things. You see, Christianity says Jesus died on the cross. Islam says Jesus did not die on the cross. It was somebody else who was on the cross, not Jesus. Now, those two claims contradict each other. Jesus couldn't have both died on the cross and not died on the cross. So you see that they're making contradictory truth claims, and as we learned in our previous video, that means they both can't be true. Now, maybe it's true that Jesus did die on the cross, and maybe it's true that he didn't die on the cross, but it can't be the case that they both are true, because they're just saying contradictory things. Now, what we find when we look at other religions is that almost the religions agree on very superficial things. They disagree on the most important things. They disagree on things like the nature of man, heaven, hell, the nature of God, how we get to heaven, if there is even a heaven, how we get to hell, if there is even a hell. They disagree on the most important things. They only agree on superficial things. And because of the nature of truth, we know that they can't all be true because they're saying contradictory things. So some of you have heard this analogy. You'll say religions are like the parable 3 blind men and an elephant. And it's like this. So 3 blind men go to a guru, and they're blind, they can't see, and he asks them to feel different parts of an elephant. So one blind man feels parts of the elephant's legs, and he says, "Oh, I'm holding on to a tree trunk." Another blind man feels the elephant's ears, and he says, "Oh, I'm holding on to a fan." Another blind man feels the elephant's tail, and he says, "I'm holding on to some kind of weed or leaf," or something like that. And the point of the story is supposed to be that each of these blind men are like us, and they all have part of the truth. So each of the different parts of the elephant are supposed to represent different religions, and the blind men are supposed to be people that are grasping onto part of the truth. But the reality, according to this parable, is that all of them only have a piece of the truth, and so that when we put them all together, we have the total truth. The problem with this metaphor, parable, whatever you want to say, is that we know that each of them are actually wrong, because the parable is being told from somebody who has a third-person view, who can tell you that what they're actually looking at is not a tree trunk or a fan or a weed, it's actually an elephant. So the reality is they're all wrong. And because this third person who has this bird's eye view can tell them that they're wrong, we know that the point of the story, the point of the metaphor that it's supposed to be, that no one knows the truth, is actually false, because the person who's telling the parable actually does have the truth. So the parable actually undercuts itself, because it's saying that you can know the truth, that this is actually an elephant. So the reality is that neither of them are right. Because why? Because it's actually an elephant. And so in the same way, when we look at truth claims, there can only be one right answer to the question, what does 1 + 1 equal? And it's not intolerant to say that because it doesn't equal 5, that somehow it's intolerant and we're being irrational. No, that's just the nature of how truth claims work. Different religions give different answers to these most fundamental questions of reality. And because they give different answers, answers that contradict, they can't all be true. So the challenge for you as a listener is not to find the religion you prefer or the religion you want to be the case, want to be true, but to find the religion that is in fact true. And I would submit to you, if you would stay with us in these videos, amongst all the ones that we're going to be producing, we will give you good reasons, good evidences to believe that the truth is found in Christianity, most importantly in the person of Jesus Christ. So remember, at Ratio Christi here at UNC Wilmington, we always want to ask good questions, such as, why can't all religions be true? But we also want to seek good answers. And when we do that, we realize, because that's just how truth claims work. They can't all be true because they contradict each other. This is Aaron Marshall with Ratio Christi here at UNC Wilmington.